Esteemed panelists and valued participants, good morning and good afternoon and warm welcome to our webinar on technology and digital transformation in the legal industry. I'm truly delighted to see such a diverse and engaged audience joining us from various corners of the legal and technology sectors. I am Gopi Mamidipudi, the moderator for today's webinar. I have been an IT professional for just under 40 years. Over the past 7 years at CEB, I played a significant role in introducing new technology, particularly in the intersection of cloud technologies and the practice of law. My goal has been to better serve our clientele by providing them with tools that simplify and enhance their productivity. In today's rapidly evolving world, the legal industry is not immune to the transformative power of technology. In fact, it is the forefront of adopting innovative digital solutions to streamline operations, enhance efficiency, and better serve clients. With the advent of large language models like ChatGPT, the legal landscape is undergoing a profound shift, one that is reshaping the way legal professionals work, collaborate, and deliver legal services. Over the next 1 hour, we will embark on an insightful journey exploring the intersection of law and technology and delving deep into the strategies, trends, and opportunities that define this dynamic landscape. Our esteemed panelists, who bring a wealth of knowledge and experience, will guide us through this exciting terrain. Our focus in the webinar will be on achieving operational efficiencies via automation of billing, filing documents with courts, receiving and delivering court notices so that we can leverage paralegals for additional responsibilities. We have a panel discussion that promises to provide you with valuable insights and actionable takeaways. Whether you're a legal professional seeking to leverage technology for a competitive edge or technology enthusiast interested in the legal sector's transformation, there's something here for everyone. Before we dive into our discussions, I'd like to express our gratitude to our distinguished panelists, without whom this event would not be possible. I'd also like to acknowledge our sponsors and partners for their support. So without further ado, let's embark on this exciting journey together, exploring the ways in which technology is reshaping the legal industry and forging new frontiers of possibility. To kick things off, I will now introduce to our first keynote speaker, who will provide valuable insights into the importance of digital information in the legal world. Larry Swain, our first panelist, the virtual floor is yours. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Gopi. I'm Larry Swain with Rapid Legal, and Rapid Legal is a litigation support service provider that's been in business for more than 30 years, providing support for attorneys and law firms related to litigation support processes, getting court documents filed, service process, document research, etc. Rapid Legal is one of the first litigation support companies to go online in the early 2000s when we saw the future and the possibilities of the internet and brought to law firms across California the ability to submit orders online. And that was very timely because as soon after, courts across the state began adopting electronic filing, and that's really has taken hold over the last 10 years. And Rapid Legal has tried to stay at the forefront of offering online web-based solutions to law firms and attorney services. I myself have been with the company for 10 of the last 25 years that I've been working in technology. And before that, served 7 years in the U.S. Navy. And so my role at Rapid Legal is to look at how do we extend our solution by integrating with other technology providers who are also serving law firms to help automation across all aspects of running the business of a law firm and getting that done. So thank you, Gopi. I'm happy to be here.
Thanks, Larry, for that introduction. I mean, good to know that you have solid experience in this area. I will switch to our other panelist, Dan O'Day. Please introduce yourself, Dan.
Thank you, Gopi. So yeah, Dan O'Day, co-founder of ECFX. We automate the processing of the court notices. So you can say a little bit, we pick up the kind of things that Rapid Legal helped create. What we do is we download those notices, we store them in the DMS, we distribute them to the team so individuals don't have to. We've only been around for 4.5 years now, and we launched the product in 2020. But we do have quite a esteemed client list I'm very proud of. I've been in legal since I was 16 years old. I started out as a court runner because I could drive a car, right? And so I went on to be a paralegal. I did practice law. I had my law license in California, but realized that the actual practice of law was very adversarial. So I ended up in legal technology at a company that some people may know called Elite that became part of Thomson Reuters. And I have had various roles, but I have been involved since the age of 16 when I first started putting PCs into a law firm in legal technology for my entire career. So thank you very much.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, you've been in technology for so long and you've done a wide variety of roles. That's awesome. So I will start with my first question for today, which will kind of be an excellent starting point to continue with our discussion in this webinar. So, Larry, first question to you: what changes do you think have occurred in the last 20 years that are encouraging humans to take a switch to automation? What work are humans doing today that can be used as a basis for comparison?
Well, we've seen an awful lot. I will focus on one thing that Dan can relate to. The days of the court runner are soon coming to an end. What I think what we've really seen that's primarily impacted law firms and particularly the courts is the idea of moving documents electronically. Gone are the days of the wet print out the document, put a wet signature on it, and hand it to a clerk. By adopting e-filing, we've seen courts embrace online documents, electronic documents. They're using that to automate their own systems. So that's really, I think, what's been transformative, and that really sets the stage. What's happened over the last 10 years sets the stage for what can happen over the next 10 years. As more information, documents, payments are moved electronically, it's going to bring all kinds of efficiencies and opportunities across the legal technology space.
And switching over to Dan, do you also agree with Larry that there has been a significant improvement in the way legal professions work today in the last 20 years? There have been a lot of changes that you've seen.
Yeah, I would say that while I would agree 100% that the move to electronic document transfer and electronic documents has finally taken hold in legal after 30 years of attempting this, and they've been talking about paperless offices, not quite since I started. They started talking really seriously about going paperless in law firms late 90s, early 2000s. And I think with the advent of electronic filing and a number of things that at least in litigation, there is a lot less physical paper for certain. No doubt about it. That's been a transformative change. We see, of course, the related change in the e-discovery process. It used to be just plain old document production, right? And so these have been monumental changes that have allowed for automation in ways that didn't exist 20 years ago, to your question.
Yeah. And ECFX, do you also automate several processes in this legal industry?
We did. So we're essentially what people outside of legal call robotic process automation, or RPA. But we're specialized in doing that around court notices. So as court notices come in, we're parsing them, analyzing them, figuring out what documents need to be downloaded, where they need to be stored, who's on the team that needs to be notified, and sending those out to those individuals. We've also integrated with various federal agencies and the ITC, FINRA, people like that. So it's really anywhere that you have some sort of repetitive process around email, we can essentially automate it for a law firm.
Right. And Larry, what about your company? I mean, are you automating, and do you see scales in productivity gains there when you do the automation the way we e-file now?
Yeah, absolutely. So our primary benefit to law firms and attorneys is to allow them to take documents that they're creating electronically and get those documents handled in whatever litigation step they're at. If they're filing a new case or if they need other parties served, we're able to accept those documents electronically, route them to the courts electronically if the court does so. If not, have a runner. There are still some out there. Take them to the court and have parties served. So we've allowed the law firm to take a lot of that work off their plate and not have to send people or have runners come to their office, which has really dramatically improved the timeliness and responsiveness of getting those litigation steps completed, as well as help to honestly reduce the cost. You see dramatic cost reductions for the law firms by moving to where the courts have adopted electronic filing. Saves a lot of time and saves a lot of money.
And what are some typical challenges you face when you try to introduce this process in law firms? I mean, have you seen any, and what kind of ways?
That's a great question. There's always challenges when adopting technology. I'm one of those people who always love to run out and find out something that's brand new or try something brand new. Quite often, and particularly when you're a business or you're running a law practice, you want to make sure that everybody's on the same page. If you have some people doing one thing and other people doing something a different way, whether that's using different vendors, using different software platforms, consistency of execution, I think, is one of the biggest challenges in change. People, naturally, we all resist change of some sort. But what we find is, I think, once the team at a firm is on the same page, they're conscious and recognize the benefits to be had. They can work through any issues or stumbling blocks to get themselves moving forward.
Right. And Dan, how about your offering? Do you see challenges in introducing your technology into law firms?
Yeah, we do see some initial challenges sometimes. It depends on the firm's culture a lot and whether or not they're embracing, especially the administrative staff. It's taking a lot of time. You know, the administrative staff have oftentimes feelings about how they do their work. And today they're downloading documents perhaps and naming them in a certain way. And two individuals in the same firm may have two different ways to name documents because they feel that's the best way to do it. And the firm comes in with a solution like ours, and even though we can and often do save them multiple ways, they often want to institute with our software a standard, right? And so they'll say, okay, we're going to this standard, and now we're going to do everything the same way in all matters across all our litigation. And that change can be resisted sometimes by the staff who will want to go in and rename things. They'll want to move things around and stuff. So we run into that issue. The other thing we do is we shed a light sometimes on people who are not actually compliant with the system. So a lot of our value proposition is risk management. And it is sometimes the case in some firms and a few of our clients where not every case was being tracked properly. Some attorney may have made a pro hoc appearance in some jurisdiction and just be managing the case himself and his admin, and no one else in the firm knows about it. We often identify those and bring those to the forefront. And so there's a period of data reconciliation, if you will, of what's really going on and how many of these cases are actually being properly tracked.
Right. And is there resistance at a attorney level or at a paralegal level, or it kind of percolates all right across the board?
The attorneys love it. So the partners, the attorneys love it. There's almost no resistance because now they're getting, the work product faster, consistent format, 100 almost instantly. Weekends, holidays, they love it. It's almost always at the staff level where the staff had a certain way of working, right?
Right. Okay. And Larry, is that what you see as well? do younger attorneys take to technology faster than the older ones? Quite obviously, I guess. But do you see a resistance in taking on your technology in a law firm if they are primarily older attorneys in there?
We do, as Dan said, we're humans and we get used to doing something a certain way and we find something that works for us. So when change is forced on us or pushed on us, I should say, it can be harder. What we've seen, particularly around our business and filing documents with the courts, is where the courts are driving the change that I think the attorneys that are resisting it or the staff that are resisting realize that they have to change. And so now it becomes, how can you adopt technology and change your processes in a way that's going to work for you? And I think one of the key things that Rapid Legal has always been about is supporting our customers through those changes. So a lot of times, a court wants the documents submitted electronically, but they don't want you to call them if you have a problem. Right. So our emphasis on supporting our customers, helping them through those changes, helping get questions answered, has been also really helpful for those who resist that kind of change, to know that they're going to have someone by their side to help them through it. That we've seen that to be very beneficial.
Right. And are there any limits to the automation you're doing, or is there any advantage of collecting a lot of data over the automations and being able to analyze and do things better? I mean, do you have examples of that?
We do. I think one of the key, as the courts are adopting electronic documents, there are a whole associated set of data that are going to come with that. Information about the case, information about fees. We've seen some law firms take advantage and reach out to us, say, how can we get the fees that we're paying for the services and paying to the courts into our accounting systems, so we can do auditing across vendors. We can get more normalized cost structures, predictable cost structures across our different vendors that are providing services for us. So what we see is that as the automation continues to take hold, more and more things are done electronically. There's more information available to now aggregate that and make better decisions about cases, make better decisions about the business of running a law firm, all of those elements.
Right. And then do you see something similar?
We do. Similar to what Larry's experienced, we give them insight into something they don't have insight today. If you go into your typical law firm of any size, and I mean like 10 or more lawyers, and you say, well, how many court notices do you get in a month? They'll have no idea. It's like, right? It's distributed, it varies by case. And so oftentimes when they put the product in, they are usually shocked by the number of notices. And we deduplicate. So we remove duplicates. So if 4 people get it, we narrow it down to 1 notice. And the volume is often 3 to 5 times higher than they had imagined that they had. And, they just didn't know. It was so distributed, and and then they can say, oh, actually, we have a ton of work in New York, or, oh, our Hawaii office, we have a client who found out that their Hawaii office had as many filings as their New York office, which surprised them, right? And so, you can often shed light into areas that they just don't have the data today to see.
Right. And are companies generally aware of different types of automation available, or is there a lag between technologies that are getting created and automation that are getting created, and what people know or what law firms know? Dan?
There's definitely a lag. A lot of people said, I had no idea software like yours existed. Had I known it, I would have gotten it years ago. There's often I have to deal with the court. So the court's making them aware they have to e-file. It's requiring it. They're now dealing with these emails, but it's not intuitive to say, oh, is there another tool to help me now that the court's gone electronic? to complete this process or to tie it all together, right? And I'm sure Larry's experienced the same thing.
Yeah, definitely. I would say there's, I mean, I find this in my own, work practice in my personal life. As more and more stuff happens electronically and gets automated, that means there's more stuff coming at you that you need to keep up with. And so sometimes, you have to deal with a problem like submitting a large number of transactions or processing a large number of court notices. And is there something out there that can help me? A lot of people won't even know. There are always the early adopters that are going to be out there trying things first. And a lot of times it's as those technologies mature and more people begin to use them, then more people hear about them, and then they can bring their benefits. So.
And in general, what other automations are available outside of e-filing and court notices? Are you do you integrate with other similar services as well? Dan, do you have?
Yeah. So we integrate with case management systems and with document management systems. And what we're seeing is workflow automations in those systems. So oftentimes our software will trigger a workflow. Perhaps the document needs to go to a reviewer, often needs to go to a docketing or calendaring team. And those workflows will be triggered based on tags that we put into the metadata on the document. Some products have like hashtag concepts that allow them to sort and distribute documents. We have firms that can set a reviewer field to a certain value. So, this individual reviews it on this case and another individual reviews it on another case. And so we are really in the middle, grabbing the data out of the existing case system and then pushing it either to document management or a case management system with additional metadata to keep the workflow going. And then those systems have their own built-in workflows.
So that's excellent operational efficiency there, right there. When you receive a court notice and you've created an automated workflow that takes care of the following steps, and that's very useful to know. Yeah. And Larry, what about your case? Do you integrate with other systems, and how do you add to productivity with e-filing?
Yeah, we do. We're seeing the same thing as Dan mentioned about document management systems. Obviously, that's where a lot of the documents will start, right? A document can't be filed until it's created. So we're seeing interest and we're developing integrations so to help streamline the creation of the document and then the filing of the document. And as Dan mentioned, they're automating the return of the court notices. So that's one area. The other area that I mentioned earlier was around expense management and accounting. We're seeing a lot of interest from some forward-thinking law firms that are recognizing there's efficiencies to be gained as all of the expenses become digitized to get that information back into their accounting systems so they can bill their clients or make sure that the appropriate fees are getting put into their case summaries or keeping track of what's been paid, what's been reimbursed, what do they are owed by their customers. So really helping the cash flow through the law firm by gaining efficiencies and accuracies. And the other thing we've talked a lot about automation and improving efficiency, but what's really important to a law firm is risk management, making sure that a key notice from a case that's an important case doesn't get missed.
Right.
Time frames where documents need to be filed don't get missed. Fees, you can easily wipe out your profit margin if you don't get reimbursed for the court fees that you have to pay. So risk management is also an important part of automation as well.
Right.
Yeah, Larry, thanks for reminding me.
Sorry, Dan. Go ahead.
Thanks for reminding me because we also do billing integration as well, and absolutely. The other thing that we do for some firms is we give them a stub time entry to remind them to enter time for reviewing the document. So you can say, okay, I sent you this document. You should have reviewed it. How much time did you spend on it? So you don't forget to record that.
Right. And how do you compute ROI from the service you provide, Dan? I mean, is there a way you can justify to your customer that, hey, you pay us so much for subscribing to a service, and you will get this money back in X number of days. I mean, how do you justify the ROI to your
So
clients, customers?
yeah, so we actually have hard ROI, which is not common because what we do is we save non-billable time of staff members. So Denton's has saved. We have a white paper where Denton's has saved over 19,000 at the time of the writing, 19,000 man hours, person hours. At the time of the document produced, it's over 20,000 something hours now of real time, because they had people dedicated. They had time motion. They knew it was like 8 to 20 minutes to process one of these. They saw how many came through. They've got a dashboard now with all the data, right, which they didn't have before, and they can calculate it. That is the number one reason people usually purchase the software. I can tell you that the real benefit and the real stickiness of the product goes to Larry's risk management point, because they're like, oh, now we're not missing anything. Like, if the partner's off hiking in the Himalayas, we're still getting the notices and we know to react to it, right? It doesn't get lost anywhere. And that allows the GCs to sleep at night, and is probably more important to client retention than even the hard ROI.
Right. That's a great point. I mean, and Larry, you did bring up the risk management part. Sorry, excuse me. That is something very important for these law firms, not to miss notices, and then yeah. And how do you compute ROI, Larry? Is there?
Sure. Yeah. We don't have as many examples of hard ROI, but where we see value, where we add a lot of value, is, as I mentioned before, if you have to e-file in a document, do it with a firm you know that's going to help you. So answer your questions, help reach out to the court or the court's technology vendor if there's an issue, stand up for you and represent you. So that's what we see. While there's been an industry-wide ROI, as I mentioned, as the cost of getting documents filed at the courts have gone down, the value add of a lot of the businesses like Rapid Legal is a level of support that we can provide you. And then on the back end, where we've done billing integrations and helped with the cost control, there's definitely ROI that have been had by law firms there, just getting a handle on understanding and making sure that expenses are reimbursed, costs are covered, those kinds of things.
Right. And is e-filing mandated across California, or it is only for certain types of cases?
It varies across the state. More and more counties are mandating. So the typical life cycle is a court will shift to electronic filing. They'll implement an electronic filing system, and they'll make it optional. And then they will start to then make it required, mandatory for certain case types. Or it'll be required by all law firms and attorneys, and they'll only make exceptions for self-represented case parties. But we've seen a lot of the big counties, Los Angeles County, Orange County, Santa Clara County, Riverside County, are really moving quickly. So we've seen now that I think across the state, about 2/3 of the counties in California have e-filing activated, and that covers more than 80% of the case. So it's definitely it's a mature technology, and it's being adopted across the state. There's only a few smaller courts that haven't adopted it yet, but before we know it, it'll be 100% coverage.
Right. And Dan, do you see courts in your area send notices only by email, electronically? Are there courts that do that now, or we're not there yet?
Well, the federal courts have been there for many years, actually. The federal courts have been there a long time. They're all e-service through the PACER system. And then we've seen some states go 100% electronic. Again, maybe making exceptions for pro se or certain things, but otherwise 100% electronic. New York State's on a single system. It does vary greatly by state, whether it's a state level system or a county level system. And that tends to be based on the very simple question of where does the budget for the technology reside? And based on where the budget resides is where the tech solution resides, right? So that's usually how it works.
Right. And in California, what is the situation?
It's county level,
Uh,
as I was saying. Yeah. So each county, what happened was there is a history behind here. We won't go into it, but the state attempted to build a statewide solution and spent a fair amount of money only to have it partially implemented in Sacramento and ended up deciding, hey, and the counties were like, you have these large cities are like, we need something now. And so the state legislature enabled them through law to take it on themselves because the counties were like, we couldn't wait for a statewide solution in California. It was too much pressure. Yeah.
and how long does it take for teams to learn how to use your product and get familiar with it? Do they need a lot of training, Dan, to go to kind of understand how your workflows work and then how it gets integrated into a case management system or any of those other products?
So the attorneys require no training because they're just getting emails and they're just seeing their documents. So zero attorney training, but they're usually a couple staff members. In a large firm, it may even be 4 or 5, but in a small, almost all our smaller clients, it's one individual who's trained on our system, understands how it works, understands if something gets stuck, why it's stuck, and how to unstick it. So there is some training required, and we usually do them in a few 1-hour sessions to get them fully versed in the product.
And do you also have APIs that you need IT people to integrate with other systems, or how does that work?
We don't require any IT direct support. We do integrate with systems, and so you may involve IT in it. Oftentimes, the larger firms do have to involve their IT teams for security reasons and other things. So it varies greatly by firm. But we have some solo practitioners on the platform that have no IT support, and we're able to handle everything for them. So.
Okay. And Larry, how about the Rapid Legal? How is that in terms of integration with? How do you set up integration? How do you train people? What's the background there?
Well, Gopi, it's actually very easy to get started using Rapid Legal Services. It's access to a web browser, so a very small amount of training our staff can walk through with the law firm staff who will be using our services on how to submit the orders and then how to look at the views of the case, documents that have been filed, some of the basic functionality we have around court notices coming back, the emails our system will send. That's very straightforward. We now have the integrations with document management systems that are really easy to activate and use. And some of the more sophisticated integrations, billing integrations, that's going to depend a lot on what systems that the law firm is using and what they need from it. So those will take more time. We'll get involved and help solve those problems and work with the IT staff appropriately.
All right. And this question is for both of you. What use case do you see that combines Rapid Legal with ECFX? And are there use cases out there that can create a workflow that combines both the technologies together and provide significant productivity gains for law firms?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. So that's actually that's why it's a great partnership. If you will think of it, Rapid Legal's dealing with the inputs and we're dealing with the outputs. And by putting those two systems together, you've now got a full 360-degree solution for your office.
Yeah, you start creating your documents in your document management system, send them through Rapid Legal to the courts and out to get served, etc. It all comes back, and ECFX can add the intelligence on how those documents get put back in the document system, notified to people, all that handling on the back end. It's a really good
the conformed copy comes back, right? So they want the file stamp copy for the record, and we can save that in NetDocs right next to, or whatever document management system they have, right next to the filing that they made. So they will have the draft that they submitted, but ultimately they want the court stamped document. And since we're no longer walking down to the court and bringing 3 copies to get conformed copies to bring back to the office, we need the file stamped version that's e-stamped. So.
And In terms of integrating Rapid Legal with ECFX, is there anything special required, or they work independent of each other?
No, we work together on integration. So we've built really tight integration. So, for example, we know what a rapid legal notice looks like. They've provided us with the information on what jurisdictions they support, and so we can recognize which court it came from, understand using their APIs how to call and get the documents. It's been a terrific partnership from building a tight integration so that our customers have a seamless experience.
Excellent. Larry, you had anything to add to that?
No, he covered it. Yeah. We do the work, so they don't have to.
Right. And how is the reception of Rapid Legal with law firms? I mean, are more and more people adopting e-filing? I know it's mandated, so they have no choice, but even then, is there a kind of resistance to adopt e-filing, the Rapid Legal as a solution, or do people try other solutions before they come to Rapid Legal?
Well, we would love it if they all started with us, but of course, when you have a county where e-filing is mandated, they have to e-file with someone. There could be that a direct portal that the court's technology vendor has put up. There could be other businesses out there. What we find is when folks come to Rapid Legal and they stay with us because of the level of service. Remember, when you adopt technology, it's great to have someone on the other end of the phone when you have questions on how you're using it or an issue using it, someone that can help you out. So what we've seen is the level of service that's there, as well as the ability to work with all these complementary solutions. So we're not just helping them get e-file documents submitted. We're able to work with companies like ECFX and handle the full round trip, provide all the automation, and increase the value add of the automation to the law firm by selecting us because of who we can work
with. Okay. So, Dan, a question for you. Is there any question I've not asked and you wanted to talk about?
Well, I love talking about legal tech, so there's a million things to discuss. I think we can all appreciate that the landscape is changing, and it's probably changing more rapidly. I think a lot of discussion a few years ago was how COVID essentially forced the firms to recognize cloud technology in particular, and as a result, there's data to support the fact that lawyers are more willing to accept technology than they were pre-COVID, right? And they see it as helpful and beneficial. I mean, the whole experience of instead of waiting in court for 4 hours for your hearing until the judge could get you, getting a Zoom call at the right time while you can still do other work, I mean, just so much more efficient in so many ways, right?
Right. And Larry, is there anything I should have asked and I've not asked yet about your platform and your technology or anything related?
Yeah, the biggest thought is what's driving the adoption of e-filing. I like to remind people that it's the courts themselves, because the courts have finally come to recognize the benefits of automation. And by getting documents electronically, receiving them electronically, the courts are also processing them electronically. They have court case management systems now that allow the clerks to review them. They can be routed to the correct judge to be reviewed. They have full view of a case now electronically. They saw even during COVID when clerks were able to process filed documents from home, there were lots of efficiencies. But the driving, I think, as we've seen the adoption accelerate is because more and more courts are realizing that they need to start adopting technology faster, incorporate automation to manage their costs. They're gaining benefits from it. So I think as we look to the future, as they continue on their adoption path, that's going to pull or push more law firms to come along. And also, I think, create a lot of opportunities for, as we've already talked about, how much automation has been able to help what we're seeing right now. That's only going to continue to increase.
Okay. And Thanks for that. And I don't think we can end the conversation without talking about ChatGPT. How do you think how do you think ChatGPT, Dan, will change the way firms will work using your technology? Are you incorporating ChatGPT in any manner? Do you plan to do any of that? And what's your vision there?
So ChatGPT is obviously generative AI in generically and large language models, whatever you want to, whatever classification. And having wrote my college thesis on artificial intelligence, I've been thinking about this for most of my
Wow.
career. I would say that there are two types of AI that are being used in the legal industry, and I do think it's important to separate out the generative AI from kind of your other types of AI, expert systems, things we do like parsing, various ways in which you can approach things, categorize, classification engines, things like that. And so those things, classification engines, things that pull out and identify dates and titles of documents, those are really important technologies for what we do. The generative AI is obviously more involved on the drafting side of the equation. I have some theories that I'm pretty sure is not controversial, that not every company that's entering legal tech with a generative AI solution will be around in 5 years.
Right.
Because these technologies are early technologies, and we all know how lawyers are. They're going to look at this stuff and go like, what? This is more
Yeah.
work for me, or this is too much effort for me to deal with all the edits I have to make to this thing that was generated for me automatically.
Right.
I do have a big question, though, when it comes to the bar associations. It would not surprise me at all if the bar associations start to step in and do something along the lines of you have to disclose if you use generative AI and you have to review it because it's just like if you had your paralegal draft it, it's your license, you're responsible for it. I think that's the position they're taking now, but I think they're going to be more explicit about a lot of this stuff.
Right.
I do think that you'll find that it's going to be used as it has been, it's going to be used more by plaintiffs' attorneys and defense attorneys because of the economics of the two sides. So I have a lot of thoughts about generative AI in legal.
Right. I'm sure you don't want to give away your secrets on how you're changing your product by using generative AI, but yeah, it's
Well, we're
good to
not,
know.
again, it's not for us, it's more about the extraction and classification and pulling out dates. And so you will see AI in our product, but we're not going to be writing stuff. Now that Rapid Legal's in more in the submission business, but we're not. So.
Right. And Larry, how do you see large language models like ChatGPT enter your world of Rapid Legal?
Well, similar to what Dan answered, our business is not in the model. We're not in the business of helping the law firms create their documents or argue their case.
Right.
We're all about helping them get it done. But what I think we'll see happening is as the more and more of these documents become automated, and the courts start to share information from their own automated systems, that the body of knowledge about legal cases that's available for systems like ChatGPT and others to ingest will grow. That'll only grow as ChatGPT can't ingest a document that's sitting on a paper file somewhere in a courthouse. So as more of the information becomes digitized, those large language models will have a larger data set to look at. So that'll only help. So it's need to be a part of the process of bringing, what used to be all paper-based to more electronic that can help drive these kinds of automations that'll help us in the future.
Sure. Thanks. Dan, any closing comments there? Final comments?
So I think we are seeing the changes that we've discussed are just the beginning, obviously, or we're somewhere in the middle of the road, maybe. I guess the early days of the word processor in the law firm was probably just the beginning. And now here we are. I do think we will see paperless offices. I know there's some practices already that have gone paperless because of the remote work combined with everything else, right? So it's nice to see that day is finally here. And I am excited to see what the next 30 years brings this area, right. Legal tech. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Dan. Larry, how about yourself? Any closing comments there?
Yeah, I agree. It's an exciting time. As we see, there's lots of parties involved in the case, right? The law firms, the courts, and other entities. As all of those connections move online and those systems evolve, it's just going to create more opportunity for automation and streamlining and saving a lot of time. You know, the generation of web technologies that are out there now, systems in the cloud can talk to each other so much easier, like Rapid Legal and ECFX. The accounting systems will evolve, the billing systems, the practice management systems. We're already in the early stages of having them talk to each other. So as all of these systems develop and are able to talk to each other more naturally, it'll save a lot of time for the staff in running the business of the law firm, so they can focus on what they do best and where their true value add is the practice of law. And all of these administrative aspects will just get easier and easier to automate.
Yeah, thanks, Larry. Thanks, Dan and Larry, both of you. It is clear from what you both said today that law firms need to embrace technology faster than ever to stay ahead in the game, right? Cloud technologies have made it easier for law firms to introduce new systems into their workplace. So there is a whole bunch of applications available, and a couple of good examples are Rapid Legal for e-filing and ECFX for managing court notices. So these are some really good examples, and these are the heart of any law firm this work. So these are very useful for improving operational efficiencies. So I think this has been a great session. Thank you, Larry and Dan, for this insightful talk and sharing your knowledge with CEB's family. That's all I have for now. Goodbye.
Thank you, Gopi. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Gopi.
Yeah.